One of the things that Jesus proclaimed when he was here on earth was the kingdom of God. He didn't talk about himself. He was talking about something that he called the kingdom of God. In fact, that term is used 160 times in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which we call the synoptic gospels because you can look at them side by side, one view, synoptic. 160 times. So it's an important term, whatever he meant by it. He used a lot of images for it. Kingdom of God is like leaven. Kingdom of God is like seed, a mustard seed. It's like a field sown with wheat, and then an enemy came and sowed weeds in it. The kingdom of God is like a pearl of great price. Lots of different images. And then he said at another time, the kingdom of God is pressing in on you. The English translation was at hand, but the Greek has that sense of pressing in. And he said, the kingdom of God is within you and in your midst. So, whatever this kingdom of God is, it's not a place, it's some kind of an energy, some sort of a spiritual reality. It's within us and in our midst. It's with us all the time. So, what could this mean, this term kingdom of God? What is within us? We get a hint about it from the Aramaic word for kingdom, and that is Malkuta, Malkuta, transliterated into English, Malkuta. And that word, its roots have to do with creative empowerment, with the ability to say, I can, to all of life's situations, whether they're difficult ones or joyful ones, to say, I can. That's the meaning of Malkuta. So the kingdom has to do with empowerment, with being able. The Greek translation of the word Malkuta, because the New Testament was actually written in Greek, is basileia. And from basileia, we get our word basis or base, a solid foundation. So that sense of Malkuta, basileia, empowerment, solid foundation, gives us a clue of what the kingdom of God is about. That creative empowerment that enables us in any moment to meet a situation creatively and with power, with ability, with creativity. Uh, when we're faced with a situation, we need to ask the question, not what do I want from this situation, but what does the situation need from me? And in doing that, it opens it up from looking at the situation with what I would call the little I, my ego or my individual personality, to looking at it from a much wider perspective of what we might call the big I, the soul or self or life itself, universe, God. There are many terms we can use for that larger dimension of life. But that's what we need to do to be able to approach situations from that solid foundation of the kingdom of God within us, is to be able to look at it from that larger perspective of the big I, the soul perspective. It's not that the little I goes away, the personality, but it's sort of, think of it as sort of the little I is enfolded within the bigger I. It's not like there's two different I's, but the big I, the soul perspective, becomes the perspective of the little I, so that it's just one entity, one reality. But by looking at things from a larger perspective, it changes everything. It changes just, you've seen those little things in books where you look at a picture and it, from one perspective it looks like a witch, and from another it looks like a young woman. It's the same image. It's just that your perspective changes, and all of a sudden there's the young woman, and then you look again and there's an old witch. So similarly, the kingdom of God within us is that solid foundation that helps us to see freshly from a new perspective. And then from that new perspective, we're able to take new action, creative action. Uh, from seeing things differently, we're able to act differently and be able to act with openness to a larger view, with what is really needed instead of what I want. And that will mean, for example, that I can approach reality with being able to act and creatively and with the I can of the kingdom of creative empowerment acting within me to be able to face these kind of situations in life, situations like the death of a loved one or the serious illness of a loved one, my own illness, to be able to say I can, to facing that difficulty when it comes, to be able to face that daily relentless grind of going to work every day and watching the kids. Think of the pandemic that we've had and how people had to work at home and watch the kids at the same time and deal with their issues and their little problems. It was very, very difficult. But there is within us the I can, if we relate to it, that enables us to meet those situations, to meet that daily grind from a new perspective and a new viewpoint and with power. So in order to do this, again, in summary, how do I do this? How do I come in touch with this power within me? Well, the first thing is simply to remember that it exists, to remember that this is there, this is my heritage, that I have within myself the kingdom of God, the Malkuta, the Basileia, the solid foundation, the creative empowerment. That is there, the I can with a big I. It's there. And then the second thing is simply remind myself every day that I can choose whatever comes upon me that day, I can choose from that creative empowerment, from that new perspective.